Hello, everyone. I am back with my friend, Dr. Dan Sullivan. I know Dan for like forever, and this is our first time actually meeting officially in person. I would say maybe, yeah, we know each other, but this is like our first time really talking and meeting in Zoom. I'm so happy to have you here. Congratulations on your new life and finished your doctorates, and now you're helping people.
Thank you so much. I'm happy to be here.
Thank you. Thank you. So if you're listening and if you're watching, keep the keep the interview till the end, because I have some important questions to cover all about health and optimization and longevity and how we can actually live healthier life and use our body as the clean vessel so we can also spiritually ascend. As you know, I come from a spirituality background. I do a lot of inner work, and in the process of doing all that work, it's so important to keep our body up and running properly, because all the toxins and blocks in our physical body can actually slow down our growth.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So today I would like to specifically talk about detox and fasting. I'm obsessed with fasting. I actually wrote a book about it. But I would like to share with the listeners and the viewers the benefits of fasting and autophagy, and how, I want you to tell us the benefits of fasting and how can someone start. And maybe before we start, you can share a little bit of who you are and what's your background, so they know that you're the pro.
Goodness. Okay. All right. I'll try to keep this short. It's a long background. Goodness. Well, basically I grew up, I was a musician, a hockey player, and my kind of career paths diverged, and I chose hockey as my career path. I wanted to play in the NHL. And I thought that, music I could always fall back on. It was I could play, the violin, the saxophone my whole life, which are the two instruments that I play. So I pursued hockey. I got into, just developing myself, my athletic performance, eating well, just trying to enhance my ability to perform. And so that kind of led me down the path of eating better, taking supplements, researching things, just finding podcasts, just really diving in. And I just loved how the body works and trying to optimize it. And so I got a scholarship and I played Division I college hockey. And during that time, I got more and more into, the performance optimization aspect. And I actually met a mentor who became my mentor. He was an acupuncturist. He was a chiropractor. He practiced functional medicine. And, I met with him originally, and I was like, I'd love to enhance my performance. What can I do? And he started telling me all these things, which I had no idea, eating organic and the importance of, lowering the sugar intake and these food allergens like gluten or dairy or soy or whatever. And, I'm thinking I'm a Division I athlete. This is like, I have a pretty good diet already. And so he's just like, there's so many more nuances to this and, ways that you can optimize yourself. And so we started working together, and over the next couple of years, I basically ended up not pursuing a professional career and in hockey, and then pursuing a career in health. And so I didn't know what that would mean. I started working for him, just answering the phones at the front desk. I just knew that I wanted to be around that guy. I wanted to be around that energy, that knowledge, and, just absorb that. So I was literally just a sponge for the next 4 years. I became a health coach, certified bulletproof high performance coach. And during that time, just realized that I wanted to do more. I wanted more tools in order to help people. And so I decided to basically pursue medicine as a career and to go back to school. I was a business management major. So I had to go back to school, take all these science classes, and then basically, decided that naturopathic medicine was, and that's what I am, a naturopathic doctor, was the most in alignment with the medicine that I wanted to practice. And so fast forward, 4.5 years later, and here we are. I'm in San Diego now. And so that's sort of my journey. And let's see. So goodness. All right. So fasting.
Yeah, fasting and how we can detox our organs.
So fasting, I love fasting. I just actually got done with I think it was like a 45 hour fast a couple of days ago. There are so many great benefits to fasting, from all kinds of metabolic, cardiometabolic issues, diabetes, cardiovascular issues, benefits for longevity, for gut function, resting the gut, inflammatory processes as well. A lot of times people are under chronic inflammation and they may not be even aware of that. They might not have a full-blown autoimmune disease, or, it might not be, very pronounced, but a lot of people are under low levels of chronic inflammation. And so that's one of the major benefits as well of fasting, is to just sort of dampen the immune system and sort of just help it to regulate things. The autophagy, like you had mentioned, cell cleanup, which is huge, for, even there's more and more studies coming out, the benefits neurologically, trying to stave off, Alzheimer's, dementia, things like that. And even cancer, there's research on cancer, on, there needs to be more and more, about the cell cleanup and really trying to remove those cancerous cells before they, keep growing and growing. So I think, those are some of the I guess the health benefits. Obviously there's that whole spiritual dimension as well, where you're, getting your body, your physical body ready, as a vessel for those higher levels of consciousness. And so that's a whole nother.
Yeah, I believe we have power to heal ourselves. If you actually give chance to our body, it will heal itself.
Totally.
So before we go into any kind of Western medicine or pills or regimens, I always suggest everyone to just give yourself at least a 24-hour, go without food and see how you feel. And if you feel good, extend it to 48 hours. Mm-hmm. I've done 10 days once.
Wow.
That was my reset. After the third day, I felt really good. I didn't even feel hunger. I think my hardest one was second day. End of the second day, I was really hungry. I was really like about to break, and I just took some water with some salt. So if someone wants to fast and they've never done it, what would you suggest? What should they do? Because it's not easy.
Oh, for sure. No, it's not easy.
Your brain goes into like, protect system, and then dad is gonna die, we have to make sure that he's feeling hunger. And
it's it can be quite difficult. So for a lot of patients, what I'll recommend is sort of gradually moving into a more, I guess you'd call like a ketogenic style of a diet, getting the body ready. And I'd like to talk about something called metabolic flexibility, which I'm sure you're aware of. And, probably most of your listeners are as well. But, just our body's ability to be flexible and to adapt in order to burn either glucose or fatty acids as fuel. And so, when we're eating, higher carbohydrate meals a lot of sugar, and we're just eating like very frequently, our body doesn't really need to tap into burning its own fat, so those kind of mechanisms are a little rusty, I
call that the cheap fuel.
What's that?
I call that the cheap fuel.
The cheap fuel, exactly. Yeah. And so that's what a lot of people are running on, is that cheap fuel. most of the time. And so that's one of the major reasons why it is difficult. And so to make it a little bit easier, and sort of some of the first steps then that somebody can take, would be sort of limiting the amount of sugar, the carbohydrates. There's so much information online about the ketogenic diet. There's different ways of doing that. There's ways of doing that very well, still focusing on eating, mostly organic foods, getting plenty of vegetables and fiber in. You can still do all that. And even mostly a plant-based diet on a ketogenic diet. It doesn't need to be, sausages and whatever, sort of like the Atkins craze. It can be very nutrient dense, if you will. So kind of focusing on that will start to get your body into burning more fats as fuel and getting ready for that. So then sort of the first step that I like to take with patients is just telling them, okay, you eat dinner at, 8 o'clock, 7 o'clock, 8 o'clock, whatever. And then you typically eat breakfast at 8 a.m. the next morning, right? So just either extending that time. So, eating breakfast at maybe 9 or 9:30, 10, or cutting back dinner to 7, 6 p.m. So just kind of starting there, I think, is good for people. You definitely don't want to go off the deep end if you're not ready for this, because obviously doing jumping into a 10-day fast like you did, that requires a lot of preparation.
It took me 4 days to get ready.
Oh yeah. Yeah. And I'm sure much more time before that too, psychologically.
Yes. Psychologically. I also did it for spiritual purposes. So I had an intention. It was my spiritual payment.
Yeah.
So that was, I think, it was easier for me because I'm very disciplined when it comes to that. I had to cut my carb intake. I don't eat much carb. I live pretty much on ketogenic lifestyle. But when I decided I wanted to go 10 days, it took me 3-4 days I failed. My stomach was attached to my bones. I was like, okay, I have to eat. And then I realized I just started cutting carbs to a minimum. And then I started my breakfast, extended my breakfast. I started skipping breakfast. And then I came down to 2 meals a day. And then I came down to 1 meal a day. And then I was able to do my first 24 hours. Nice. And then I said, okay, I basically take it step by step. And it's like this for me. If you don't work out and you want to start working out, you put a video on YouTube. It's not possible for you to just finish a 30-minute, CrossFit. You will die. Not literally, but it will be very difficult. So it's baby steps. I wanted to ask you, as a woman, because you specialize on hormones, there's this thing they talk that it's not healthy for women to fast because of the estrogen, especially around our moon time. Can you please enlighten us? So is it bad for a woman to fast, or should we just watch it around our moon time because of the estrogen and testosterone and all that stuff, since you are the expert on hormones?
Oh goodness. Yeah, gosh, women's health is a complex phenomenon that I love, and I'm learning too. So, and I think in general, women tend to be so much better at listening to their bodies. They have monthly cycles, they have changes, fluctuations in hormones, and so I think that building on that, fasting is just another dimension that you really need to listen to your body. There's so many different variables, factors. How stressed are you? What other, underlying conditions might you have? So it's definitely not a one size fits all. I feel like for fasting, it needs to just be done gently, and
brain needs sugar to produce estrogen.
I don't know the mechanism behind sugar and estrogen. However, I do know, obviously, we have gluconeogenesis, which is, producing new sugar from the liver when your body is out of its own sugar and glycogen stores, which for people listening, so glycogen is just the storage in the liver and in the muscle tissue of sugar. It's basically stored sugar in the body that you're, after a certain period of time, you no longer, there isn't any more glycogen. Basically, your body burns through it after 16 hours or 20 hours or whatever. So in terms of, gosh, I really don't know the exact mechanism behind the estrogen, the fasting. All I would say to women is just listen to your body, start slow, make sure that you're not in a very stressed state when you try to fast, because it is a stressor on the body. So if you are in that state and your hormones are already fluctuating, I would say to try to get your body in as grounded a state as possible before doing that.
Perfect. I want to talk about the most important organs that we should detox for longevity, like gut and kidneys and liver and mental health, actually mind. How do you go about it? Let's start with gut. What do you suggest what someone should do to clear the gut?
To clear the gut. Well, I think fasting is incredibly helpful. It gives the gut time to rest, to regenerate. A lot of people I see have leaky gut or intestinal permeability, where basically the lining between the cells in the gut they're supposed to be, very tight together, and they kind of break apart. And so bigger molecules of food can get down and causes all kinds of effects. So fasting, it helps to
heal that.
Basically, yeah, exactly. Basically heal that. There's other things that help too, but so I think fasting is definitely helpful. Dietary fiber is huge, for detoxification and for gut healing, and for hormone elimination. So eating, cruciferous vegetables, organic, cruciferous vegetables, the kale, the collards, the broccoli, the Brussels sprouts, all those good things. So that's one thing that's very simple to do and very powerful. Because we also have different phases of detox. We have phase 1 detox, we have phase 2 detox. And so those are different processes that require vegetables in order to properly detoxify and then eliminate. Mm-hmm. So there's all kinds of, different herbs, different compounds like glutamine. It also helps to heal the gut. It kind of, in naturopathic medicine, we're taught to find the root cause. So it is a little bit difficult to just say, these are the things that you got to do for your gut. It really depends on what's going on in the gut. Is there candida overgrowth? Is there a parasitic infection? Do you have leaky gut? Is there dysbiosis? Do you have small intestinal bacterial overgrowth? What is the root cause of whatever you have going on? And then from that point, once you can pin that down through, the intake with the patient or, some different testing, there's a lot of different testing that's out there now. It's been so helpful in order to, try to pin some of that stuff down, to really help that person specifically with that. But in general, though, I would say the dietary fiber is huge, and so many people are not doing that.
So if you're healthy and not having a problem with your gut and you just want to detox it, you can just fast and eat a lot of broccoli and kale.
Exactly.
What about kidneys? Anyone who is healthy, they just want to flush it out. Is there any way, like a natural way we can do it at home besides drinking a ton of water?
I think, yeah, drinking a ton of water is going to be the best bet. Also fasting, also just those, kind of the same principles sort of apply. That's why I love this type of medicine, naturopathic medicine or functional medicine, whatever you call it. It's like, well, what's good for the kidney? Well, that's also going to be good for the liver, the small intestine, the heart, so it's like it's not really, it's the body is so beautiful and wonderful how it works, it's because it works together so much. So a lot of these things, like if your listeners, you're starting to eat a little bit more fiber, that's not just going to help detoxify and heal your gut. That's going to do all these other things too that are far reaching. And so that's what's so inspiring too about this type of medicine, is that when people start making these little changes, as they just really snowball and snowball, and it's just
it's like 1% better every day, just 1%. I always say everything starts in the kitchen.
definitely.
Your life starts in the kitchen. If you're eating processed foods and boxed foods, it's going to affect your mood, right?
100%.
There are chemicals in that, and it messes with our hormones. That's why everything needs to be organic, grass-fed, grass-finished, proper meat. I don't know. I'm a little bit picky about that. I rather buy a good meat than cut on my food shopping. You know what I mean? It's like my biggest budget besides my rent is my food.
Definitely.
And that's how I'm raising my babies. I'm an NLP practitioner, and when I work with people, they will complain about anger stuff, like because I'm able to delete old files in your mind.
Mm-hmm.
And I always start them with detox, believe it or not, because liver holds anger,
Definitely.
emotions. Actually, our fats hold emotion too, especially on our hip area for women. If you're angry and fighting with your wife or husband, that's the reason. So before we start, I literally put them in like a good week-long cleaning process. So I find it very, very important. I want to talk about saunas and cold therapy. Is there anything like that's also kind of a detox, right? So
Sure, definitely. I love cold. I love heat as well. I try to sauna. Gosh, I need to be doing that more, to be honest. At least once a week, if not a couple times a week.
Yeah.
Um,
I heard that it's actually prevents Alzheimer disease. Saunas.
It definitely reduces. Yes, there's been a lot of studies out of, gosh, I think it's like Sweden, I believe, and they're looking at all-cause mortality, risk of Alzheimer's, dementia drastically go down the more someone saunas. And again, there are kind of confounding variables in that equation. Like in Sweden, I know a lot of the studies were done in Swedish men that, they're going to the sauna, they're also talking, they're, de-stressing, they're, that community aspect, which is so huge, so we know how big it is ever since COVID, where everybody's more isolated now. So I think that's also a benefit too, to the cognition and the less risk of Alzheimer's, instead of just purely the sauna. But for sure, undoubtedly, there are many, many benefits to the sauna. And, that's one of our organs of elimination is the skin. And we have the kidneys for urine and our GI tract. And so that is just another way of getting things out, liberating. And again, I think, and then cold, I don't know exactly the effect on detoxification per se, but I do know just the anti-inflammatory benefits of cold, the heat shock proteins of both cold and hot exposure.
Creating mitochondria and for the telomeres.
Exactly. Yeah. That other people could probably say that much more succinctly than I can. Like, Rhonda Patrick is a great one that talks about heat shock proteins and the benefits of sauna and cold. Wim Hof, obviously, with the cold.
Yeah.
But yes, for sure, and mitochondrial function, which so many people need help with. Their mitochondria are suffering. The little powerhouses of the cell, which I'm sure everybody knows, but so vitally important for producing energy so that we can show up in our lives the way that we want to.
You will be surprised. You say, I'm sure everybody knows, but not everybody knows. This is why we do what we do. share the information. And I cannot stress enough how inner work and the physical work is so integrated, and you have to do both.
Definitely.
I go and do plant medicine ceremonies, and if I just did that, nothing would happen.
Exactly.
Or if I just did the detox and after my detox, I go back to my old life, nothing would happen. So I see that it's all integrated process.
Definitely. And it's so interesting that you say that, because I was thinking on that topic and how many things relate that I mean, just for instance, I was thinking about, leaky gut. Like it's our physical, leakiness in the barrier between the external environment and our internal environment. And that causes problems. And there's also, I feel like I call it our leaky boundaries, emotionally, that we let in certain things that aren't healthy for us, and they cause a lot of disharmony in our mind, in our spirit. And so I think there's so many different and beautiful correlations between the physical body, the emotional body, the physical or the spiritual body, the mental body. And so it's so fascinating. The more and more I dig deeper and deeper into medicine, the more of what you're saying comes about. And one of the cool things about, medicine is, and what you do too with the NLP, is so much of it starts in the mind.
Everything.
It's so, and and so it's like getting the mind in the right place. That's critical. And then all the other stuff can come, incorporating more the dietary fiber, all the fasting, all this other stuff. But if your mind is not in the right place, then
that's part of the mental health, I guess. I always also tell my clients that if you don't know what you want in life, clean your cupboards.
I like that.
So I suggest a light version of some sort of detox, especially detox on liver, because liver holds a lot of emotions. Totally. And we will do some NLP processes. I will start with something super simple, some limiting belief. That will be our first week. And then the second week task is literally go in the kitchen, clean your drawers, clean your closet. Everything holds energy. And your environment actually is the mirror of your unconscious mind.
Yes, I agree.
Your body, your physical health, is the mirror of your unconscious mind. So you're eating shitty food, you're going to have a shitty health.
Simple as that, really.
Yeah.
It's as simple as that.
So how are you coaching people? Are they seeing you at the hospital, or where do you work? How people can contact you and work with you? What do you do now?
Oh, goodness, yeah. So I'm in private practice.
Okay.
I see people in person here in the San Diego area, and then I see people virtually too. So all throughout California, and then I am trying to get my license in other states as well. But I do see people virtually. So not as a doctor-patient relationship, but more of as a health coach, basically. I'm able to do a lot more here in California for people.
So if they need to do a blood test, you just give the tasks, and then they go do the blood test, and they send you the results, and you check all that and all that stuff. So it's pretty deep down into the blueprint of their health.
Yeah, I mean, and I meet people where they're at. There's patients that, money's not an issue. They want to just keep digging and just get, really to the root of what's going on. And for some people, more testing is necessary. You can kind of do some surface level testing, not very expensive.
Yeah.
And figure out, you can between the interview with the patient, the history, family history, their history, I like to do a timeline with patients, from birth to present.
That's what we do too.
Nice. Because you really have to know, what I'm sure from your aspect, you're looking at what emotional or what triggers, what traumatizing events took place. And I'm looking at those as well, and then how they manifest physically in the body. And then also, do they have a chronic history of antibiotic use or, whatever. There's a huge study on adverse childhood events, or the ACE study, which I'm sure you're aware of.
Yes.
How that those adverse childhood events or traumatic events in childhood affect people's healths in their adulthood. But anyways, the getting carried away here.
I know it's a rabbit hole.
It is a rabbit hole, but so the testing, there's so many companies that are great that make it so easy. You can just go to the lab near you, get your blood drawn, or even send a kit for like a saliva test or something and send it in.
So how do they get in touch with you? Will you give me your information so I can put it on the descriptions on this video and the podcast, so
Totally.
they can contact you and get healthy?
Totally.
And contact me to fix some.
Exactly. You guys need it. You guys need it both. You need the mental and the physical. So yes, I know NLP is huge, and I definitely plan on getting my certification.
You need to tell me my teacher is the best.
Okay, I will.
Because she does integrated NLP. It's not just NLP. You can actually download the processes online and just read through. That's not how she does it.
Gotcha.
Like, you have to literally go through everything yourself first, and they integrate it there. I actually had the hardest 3 days of my life. First 3 days was very difficult for me to understand that I created all the bad and the good, and I created things without knowing that I was doing it on default, my unconscious beliefs, because NLP, we use quantum language, so it bypasses your conscious mind and they're able to speak to your unconscious directly, and the answers coming from me, I was shocked. I'm like, what? That sucks. And now you go into this like dark place. I'm like, oh my God. And then you play the pity party a little bit. It's like, poor me. But she gets you out, and she basically, shakes you into yourself, and you can start this fully integrated new life with your new blueprint. So it's very important to have a healthy body in order to have a healthy life.
Totally. I could
without one, the balance is off.
Definitely. I couldn't agree more.
Yeah. Thank you so much for coming over.
Yes, you're welcome. Anytime.
I would love actually everyone to send me a message and let me know what you want Dan to answer. You can also follow him also on his socials, which I will be posting all the information. So I'm so happy you came. Thank you.
You're very welcome. Anytime. Happy to be here.
Thank you.
Alrighty. Take care.